Okay, good morning, everyone, and aloha. I would like to thank all of you for taking the time to attend the March monthly service here at Pearl Church. And thank you for your kind and sincere offerings. I'm sure God the Parent and Oyasama is really happy to see you all here today to have performed the service with joy and in high spirits. But before I begin, I just want to explain that March is the month of the memorial service, and normally we will have it on the fourth Sunday. But instead of having it on a separate day, we decided to combine it with today's monthly service. So after the sermon and the closing prayer, we'll be conducting a short ceremony in memory of those past loved ones and members of this church. Last month, we talked about how we can change our destiny through recognizing our innem or karma and continue helping other people in spite of negative circumstances. This month, I would like to talk about the Tenrikyo teaching of Tanno, or translated as joyous acceptance. Or my alternative title is called What's So Special About Tenrikyo? Some years ago, while my dad was still alive, uh, he had a longtime friend who was the former owner of the Natsunoya Tea House. We call her Mrs. A. Mrs. A invited my dad for sushi at Natsunoya Tea House, which happens to have a sushi bar, which I didn't know about it previously. She looked at me because I was there and she said, "You too, why don't you come as well?" I was so elated because it's been so long that since I've been invited to such a treat. And just because I happened to be the son of Mrs. A's longtime friend, which was my dad. When we arrived there at Natsunoya Tea House, I don't know if you know, but it's located up on level heights in the mountain. There were other people there who seemed to be regular customers. And Mrs. A, who is the former owner, introduced us as ministers of Tenrikyo faith to the customers seated next to us. While we were enjoying the excellent sushi, one of the customers, Mr. B, said, "I'm a Buddhist follower. Tell me something about Tenrikyo that makes it special for you." I kind of thought about it, but for some reason, an inspiration came to me and I replied. Recently, I attended a Buddhist funeral. During the funeral sermon, the priest explained about the Buddhist view of karma. He said that we have to accept our karma. No matter how bad things turn out, we just have to accept it because it's karma. It can't be helped. I asked Mr. B, "Is this a true Buddhist teaching?" Mr. B replied, "Yes, that's absolutely correct." Then I said, "In Tenrikyo, we also believe in karma and we also have to accept it. But Tenrikyo also teaches a way to cut off our bad karma or the way to eliminate our bad karma." He asked, "How is that?" I replied in perhaps an all-knowing tone, "Well, in Tenrikyo, we teach about Tanno, or joyous acceptance. We are taught to accept everything, good or bad, but not only accept it, but to accept it with joy and gratitude, knowing that everything that happens is due to a seed that we planted, and it is a result of the seed that was planted, and we should resolve to plant good seeds from now on. This is the way to eliminate our bad karma." His eyes lit up and said, "Ah, is that so? This is the first time I've ever heard of this teaching." Thank you for sharing it. We read from the Anecdotes of Oya-sama, story number 21. I would like to tell you about a man named Yamanaka Chushi, or Chushi Yamanaka, who lived during the time of Oya-sama. Around 1865, about 5 years after he converted, heavy rains caused a river to flood, causing Chushi Yamanaka's mountain to collapse. Oh, I'm sorry. It looks like your computer is right underneath you. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I want to get your computer wet. Sorry about that. Yeah, another flood. Accept it with joy and gratitude. Okay. At least it didn't land on top of the computer. Yes. That we call Dainan Shonan. God made it a lesser disaster. Causing Chushi Yamanaka's mountain, I guess he owned the mountain, he was probably very well to collapse, means I guess there was a landslide and washed away his fields. The villagers laughed and made fun of Chushi, saying that he had suffered such a fate despite his devout faith. Chushi immediately went to see Oya-sama and asked about it. Oya-sama said to Chushi, it's fine. Your crops have flowed all the way to the bottom of the sea, but the rest is fine, meaning what he had left. You may wonder why you have faith. When you have faith, the rice fields and mountains were washed away. But just be patient. Just be patient. Everything will be fine in the future. Chushi gave his heartfelt thanks to God the parent, for turning a major disaster into a minor one. The descendants of Yamanaka Chushi, or Chushi Yamanaka, are now the central figures serving at Tenrikyo Church headquarters. Another story, someone who practices Tanmo. Here I would like to introduce you to a wonderful person who practices joyous acceptance, no matter how difficult the circumstances are. In 1917, a woman named Tame Yamazaki had a weak stomach, and her husband had lung disease. They were converted to Tenrikyo, and their conditions apparently improved somewhat. However, in 1923, 6 years after they began their faith, they were hit by the Great Kanto earthquake, or Kanto, if some of you know, is in the Tokyo area. Their house was destroyed in the earthquake, and that same year, Tame's husband passed away from a worsening lung condition. He left behind 4 children and Tame, who was 37 years old at the time. She must have been deeply distressed, wondering why such things kept happening to her even though she had faith. It was at this point that Tame realized her own karma. She realized that her family's fortune had been bad, and she devoted herself even more to the path of faith. In 1924, the year after the Great East Japan earthquake, she and her children opened a restaurant called Shojikiya in Akabane, Tokyo. Shojikiya means honest store. The restaurant was started out of a desire to do something to help the people. I guess after the earthquake, a lot of people were still homeless and destitute. Despite being a religious believer, she wondered why she had to suffer damage to her house from an earthquake and, in addition, lose her husband. She must have been left lost with 4 small children. After the hardships that had happened to them, it would not be surprising if they had given up on faith long ago. However, Tame was taught about the teaching of Tanno, and she started saying, how thankful I am. all the time, no matter what the situation was. She had the spirit of Tanno in her heart. In other words, a heart that accepts God's protection and finds joy in any situation. In this way, the current Shojikiya company was founded. Furthermore, their faith has been passed on from generation to generation, and the third generation even established a Tenrikyo church in Akabane called Saino Nishi. If Tame Yamazaki had given up her faith, the current Shojikiya restaurant would not exist. Their Tenrikyo church would not have been established either. It is thanks to Tanno that we have been able to thrive and we are able to have this wonderful world today. What happens if you suffer from doing Tanno? I guess you're not really practicing Tanno. Now, Tanno is repentance and atonement for karma from a previous life. For example, if we suffer a serious accident, injury, or financial hardship, and a miserable life, no one will be happy, and we would think it was the worst thing. However, Tanno is a way of thinking. Thank goodness. These are the results of seeds that were sown in the past. So accidents, injuries, and a miserable life happens. Although one may experience frustration, pain, and suffering through perhaps an accident or some other difficult circumstance, if one can accept it with a sense of gratitude and thanks, God will erase at least one bad karma from our previous life. I believe this is the way to improve our life, and God will lead us to a better destiny. It's not written here, but when you think about it, something happens for a reason. And it may not necessarily be what we remember because it's probably done in the past life. But if we can accept that, oh, I must have done this in a previous existence, but I must accept what's happening because it's a seed that we planted. But what do we do from now? If we get angry, we may continue planting that bad seed. But if we're thankful, we can always do good for other people. This is planting the good seed. And sooner or later, things will start getting better for you. There is nothing more important than gratitude. Be grateful for everything, even the things you don't like. That's hard to do, but it takes some amount of faith and pondering. Although it may be difficult, the teachings of Tendi are such that if you put them into practice, you will see good results in the future. So what's so special about Tenrikyo? Tenrikyo provides a way to cut or eliminate our bad karma and create a path that will lead us to the joyous life, no matter how bad or dire our situation is. God the Parent, seeing our sincerity in practicing Tanno or joyously accepting our respective situations, will grant us free and unlimited blessings. Thank you for your kind attention. Gatu.